What's that feeling you're having right now, my friends? Let me tell you what that feeling is. It's deja vu. We are talking about the movie Last Night. And why deja vu? Well, you've probably seen this movie, and it was called 47 Ronin, which starred Keanu Reeves, which is in turn based on a very famous sort of Japanese story. So this one stars Morgan Freeman and Clive Owen, and it's kind of near enough the same story, to be quite honest, but a kind of lesser version, less low-budget version of it, if you like. And let me tell you, 47 Ronin wasn't that great a film anyway. So in case you aren't familiar with that story, it really focuses on Clive Owen's character, who is this kind of knight commander who works under Morgan Freeman's kind of lord. And in this kind of universe, essentially, the lords are in control of different areas, I'm assuming, and they're all behest this kind of one emperor guy. And Morgan Freeman's lord has a kind of a beef, so to speak, with a kind of higher ranking noble, and they sort of come to a disagreement, shall we say, and Morgan Freeman has to take the fall for something and is taken out of the movie. Let's just say that, trying to be too spoilery. And basically all of his subjects, including the army, which is led by Clive Owen, are disbanded and banished from the kingdom. And then essentially the story is Clive Owen's character trying to kind of put his life back together and get out this kind of slump in his life and pull back all these kind of comrades that have sort of scattered to the winds, and try and take back his martyr's honour and get his people back to their rightful places. So it really is the same story as 47 Ronin, minus the kind of the fantastical element that film had. So what's good about this movie? Well, it's got a good cast. Like I said, you've got Morgan Freeman, you've got Clive Owen. There are a couple of other sort of like character actors here that you're going to kind of recognise when you're watching this movie. I think aesthetically it's quite interesting. It's most of it is green screen, to be fair, and you can tell it's green screen. But I think sometimes the art direction is quite interesting and has lots of kind of snowy vistas and kind of landscapes that look quite nice. The action is fairly well shot. It's not a massive amounts of action, but when we do have it, there it's quite well shot and quite well choreographed and everything like that. However, this film really suffers from just mediocrity. One of the first things I kind of noticed about this film was, before I really knew what it was, when I saw the trailer, I thought, is this meant to be like a kind of based in like a historical fantasy? Is it meant to be sort of based in the past somewhere? Or is it kind of meant to be based in the future after a kind of nuclear war and where people are kind of reverted back to kind of like the sort of medieval ways? And why do I say that? Well, we have this kind of the armour, which all looks very kind of more futuristic sort of style, kind of plastic armour. All the knights are kind of sort of multi-ethnicity, and they kind of talk in a contemporary way. So I wasn't sure if that was meant to be in the future somewhere, or if it's just a complete fantasy universe, like sort of Game of Thrones. But it never really says. So I don't think the world building was fantastic on this film to start with. Even though we have some fairly good actors here, to be honest, I think the acting is a mixed bag. Clive Owen, an established actor, rumoured for James Bond at one point, and he kind of pretty much sleepwalks through this film. His line delivery is at times pretty poor, and some of the other sort of like the more sort of B-level sort of characters are just forgettable, to be quite honest. The worst offender, however, is the main bad guy, who unfortunately is really on that sort of very old school one-dimensional villain who is just a kind of snivelling coward, and how's he ever kind of risen to this kind of like and kept hold of this kind of like this responsibility, and it just seems like such a kind of like stupid villain where he doesn't have any backbone or anything really, and it's just a cartoon character, to be quite honest. So the actual look of the film as well, even though I quite like some of the art direction, it's a very sort of a drab colour palette, and it's kind of dreary to look at. And this is the problem with this film in general, is it's kind of unimaginative, and it ends up becoming a little bit boring, particularly in the second act. So the first act of this movie, you've got Morgan Freeman. And I have to say that's the best part of this film, when Morgan Freeman's in it. But once he exits the movie, it really becomes very kind of dull and boring, and it's actually a chore to sit through. That second third is just a real pain, and it's so just dreary, boring, unimaginative. It's just a pain to watch, to be quite honest. It picks up a little bit in the kind of the latter third of the movie, where we have the kind of the big action set piece, but it never really gets back to what it was in the first third. So it's a kind of uneven movie, unfortunately, in its tone. And unlike the sort of 47 Ronin film, this doesn't have this sort of fantastical elements, so it comes across as a lesser movie than that one, and that wasn't a fantastic movie to begin with. There are some elements that I liked here as even better than 47 Ronin. In particular, this film, on the kind of the bad guy side, they have like the equivalent of Clive Owen, who is this kind of commander from their army. And what I liked about him, he's actually fairly fleshed out, and he comes across as a kind of a good guy, but on the bad side. And they actually have a bit of a respect for one another. And I actually really like that. And it's a shame he wasn't a little bit. He actually got a fair bit of development, but I would have liked to have spent a bit more time on him. But the second third of this film focuses really on these kind of like the soldiers and Clive Owen's men, and there's literally no characterization here whatsoever. And these guys are so bland, you just want to fast forward through those sections. It's so dull, unfortunately. Unfortunately, this film is quite forgettable. It just becomes across as an okay sort of action sort of fantasy film, but it's just really kind of forgettable. It's competently made, I would say, but just there's nothing to it. There's no distinguishing features, and it really does. Its kind of grey palette really reflects the kind of the flavour of this film, because that's all you will think about it. It's just kind of like meh. It was okay. And if you like 47 Ronin, you've pretty much seen this movie, and it's strange that they've kind of made another retelling of it so quickly after that sort of Keanu Reeves film, which is a bizarre choice. It was okay, but I'd have to be honest, it was really not worth your time if you're looking for sort of a quality movie. So I'm going to give this movie a 4.5 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment, and I will look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.